like I'm falling all over again.
I will love it if we beat them. Love it.
Kevin Keegan's story is inseparable from the modern history of English football. He shocked the game on more than one occasion, first by retiring as a player at the height of his powers, later by returning as manager of Newcastle United, and earlier still by breaking new ground as the first British footballer to become a genuine international superstar abroad. By the time he signed for Southampton, he was already England's captain, one of the most inspirational figures the game had known, and both a prolific goal scorer and creator. With Liverpool, he won virtually every honour available. He even did what no English player has done since, winning the Ballon d'Or twice, and his name became as recognisable as that of a pop star or politician. That is why Kevin Keegan's career represents English football's first true superstar. By the time he returned to football management, Keegan's life had moved far from the noise and pressure of the professional game. Living quietly on a farm in Hampshire, his days were set by the rhythm of feeding horses rather than referees' whistles. It was an idyllic existence, yet one he chose to put aside when he announced his return to football in what he described as the hottest seat in the country, manager of Newcastle United. Despite everything he had achieved, he was clear. This was the only job he had ever wanted. Looking back from the heights of the professional game, Keegan acknowledged how modest his beginnings were. Born on February 14, 1951, his first football came when he was 7 years old.
And my Uncle Frank, my father's brother, fetched me a big leather size 5 football, which you rarely see nowadays. Obviously with the lacing, which again you don't see anymore. And I was Jack the lad, everybody wanted to know me in the area because I had a football and a leather one at that. So it started really in the streets in Doncaster, where we used to have to go something like about a mile and a half to find a park.
At first, he actually didn't dream of being an outfield player.
And I always wanted to be a goalkeeper. Never thought of anything else. I wanted to be like Willie Nimmo, who was the Doncaster Rovers keeper at the time. I used to go and stand behind his goal and watch the way he reacted to things, watch him. He used to kick at both posts as he came out and knock the crossbar each side. And I used to go back home and try and do the same. Of course, I couldn't reach the crossbar, but I could kick the post all right. And really, my life was just around football.
Despite his lack of height, he was determined to be a goalkeeper. School mattered little to Keegan compared to football. Born into a mining family, his father worked hard down the pits, enjoying a drink and betting on horses in his free time, interests that would later influence Keegan himself. Education was encouraged, but football dominated Keegan's thoughts.
School was something that interfered almost, right from being the age of 7, 8. School life for me was mainly about how good can the football team be and what can we win this year.
One of the most unusual influences on his early development came from an unlikely source.
One of the fantastic things to happen was I was actually taught by a nun to play football originally. We didn't have a sports teacher for the last year I was at St Francis Xavier, and a nun called Sister Mary Oliver used to take it, and to be honest with you, it surprised us because she knew the rules pretty well, and she knew what offside was, and she knew when someone had fouled you or you'd fouled someone. And she actually put on a report of mine one day, she put, Kevin's schoolwork could be better, but he must be encouraged with his football as he is a good sportsman.
The next school for him was St Peter's in Stainforth. Unfortunately, a change of school brought new challenges.
The thing I noticed about the change of school wasn't the change of itinerary as far as lessons were concerned, like French suddenly became a subject and other things like biology, which we'd never heard of. The thing I can remember most about going to St Peter's in Doncaster, well, Cantley, was the fact the goals seemed to have got bigger. And I was quite shocked about that because I hadn't grown any. But the goals suddenly, from nearly being able to touch the crossbar and working really hard on jumping so I could touch the crossbar at the junior school, I now found myself nearly a foot away from the crossbar again. And that was one of the most disappointing things, and I felt sure they got the wrong size goals.
Eventually, a teacher told him bluntly the truth.
The teacher, Mr. Teamby, came up to me and he said, look, if you want to get into the team, you're going to have to play outfield, you have to play right wing. After a few games outfield, I really started to enjoy it and found it was much more fun, and it suited my temperament more. Goalkeeping I found boring at times because the action always seemed to be down the other end or in midfield. And suddenly I could run anywhere and get a touch of the ball. And that was it. I never really looked back.
The transition from school football to the professional game was far from smooth. Keegan was turned down by 2 clubs, with Coventry City delivering the most painful rejection. After being selected from a group of 200 boys and training with the club for several weeks, he was told that although he had ability, he was too small.
They said to me, look, you've got tremendous ability, but you're just too small. And we think that's going to be a handicap. And that was me back on the train to Doncaster. And that is probably the lowest I ever felt in football. I wasn't even in it then, but that coming back, the teacher at school had said I wasn't good enough to go there, and I'd have to have special permission to go because I was off school, and all sorts of things. And I thought, I can't face them because I felt such a failure. And yet I'd been picked out of 200 lads, but I hadn't quite made it, so I suppose I was a failure.
And we used to sit together going on away matches, but he would never talk about Doncaster. Funnily enough, if you brought the subject up, it was very quickly changed.
Now, that would be a negative experience for people who contemplate losing. He turned that to a winning experience. I mean, it was just it just built a determination into him.
His breakthrough finally came at Scunthorpe United, where he learned the basics of professional football. Under manager Ron Ashman,
but very wiry. And my second thoughts were, having watched him training, he's useful, quick, mentally alert, and we just went from there. I said, get him signed. He was very agile, quick, he had good touch, he could pass a ball, and he was brilliant in the air for a small lad. And I was amazed in a way that it took so long for the other clubs to have a look at him.
Ashman's faith was crucial, giving Keegan confidence and the platform to develop his intelligence, bravery, and tireless work rate. Coaches and teammates quickly recognized something special in him.
Scunthorpe United youth team coach by the name of Jeff Barker. He was a fullback with Huddersfield Town. And he came up to me one day and he said, we have just signed a lad who's going to be an international. And I always remember that. The first time I saw Kevin, I went up and watched the juniors the next week, and there was something very special about him. He had an insight into the game way beyond his years, and he would be about 17 at the time, 16 or 17.
What mattered most to Keegan was belief. When people showed faith in him, he felt driven to repay it, and Ashman's confidence played a crucial role in his development. Soon, clubs across the country were watching him.
Kevin, you started off in league football as a 17-year-old. Did you find it a bit tough?
Yeah, at first very tough. Couldn't do much right, to be honest. But the more I've played, easier it's come, you know.
Have you found the fullbacks have been giving you a bit of a warning?
Yeah, not as much as I expected, really, you know. I've, been kicked a lot on that, but no, not as tough as I thought it'd be, to be honest.
What sort of fullback do you like to see playing against you?
Well, if you like to give you a bit of room, you know. Nowadays fullbacks play cover a lot. I like to see them play that. It gives you plenty of room up wing to do what you want, you know, you get plenty of space. Gives you a lot of time to think what you're going to do with the ball when you get it.
So people are already beginning to talk about you as a player with a future. Are you very conscious of this?
No, I ain't here, I'm conscious of it perhaps, but I try not to be. Well, I try not to let people say I am. Don't know if it's wrong or not.
What sort of ambitions have you got in football?
Well, I suppose same as everybody else. I'd like to play like youth honours, then England honours if possible.
Would you welcome the chance to move on to another club?
I don't know, it depends what sort of club really. I'm happy here, very good club. But, I'd like to see it. I'm getting first team football here. I should think if I went first division I'd struggle a bit.
Yeah.
So I'm quite happy here at the moment.
And enjoying your football?
Oh yes, very much.
And then, unexpectedly, Liverpool came calling. Negotiations were tense, but a fee of £33,000 eventually agreed. After passing medicals and waiting outside Anfield on a dustbin for about half an hour, Keegan finally met Bill Shankly and Peter Robinson. That meeting would define the next stage of his career. Remembering his father's words not to sell yourself cheap.
I remember him saying that to me. Don't sell yourself cheap. Because he always felt all his life, I suppose, as a miner, that he was cheap labour. And he didn't want to see the same thing happen to me. He never, ever wanted me to work down the mines. That was his ambition, to make sure. That's why he pushed me education as much as he did. And so I'm with Ron Ashman, we're going over there. And this is the future of Scunthorpe, because the fee agreed was £33,000, which was a fortune in those days. It's a pittance now, but in those days, if you think my wages were £25 a week, it gives you an idea just how much money you could live on and how much £33,000 was. And he was saying it'll be a great club for you, and it's a good move, and you'll be Bill Shankly, he'll be a great motivator for you, and all the players, they've got Emily News, they've got Tommy Smith, they've got Ray Clements and things like that. And I can remember getting more and more excited as we went over Woodhead and started to go through Manchester, going back to the office, having passed the medical. And he offered me £45 a week. And remembering what my dad said, don't sell yourself cheap. I said, he said, what's wrong, son? I remember Peter Robinson looking a bit miffed as well, and certainly Ron Ashman, who was seeing the 33 grand maybe going out the door, he nearly collapsed. And I said, I thought you'd offer a bit more than that. I said, I'm on £35 a week at Scunthorpe, and I get £10 if we win. And he looked at Peter Robinson, and then he said, all right, son, £50 a week. And I said, oh, that'll do fine. And it was just the principle of what my dad had said. And I can remember Ron Ashman saying in the car going home, where'd you get £35 a week from? You're only on 30. I said, but I got the 15 win bonus, right? He said, yeah. He said, but when was the last time you got any win bonus at Scunthorpe? So it became a laugh. And, from that day to this, I mean...
A small but symbolic moment that reflected how far he had come from the pits of Doncaster. During pre-season at Liverpool, Keegan's impact began to show immediately.
I remember Shank saying to Kevin one pre-season, we'd been back about 9 or 10 days, and we had the first little pre-season game between us, and he put Kevin straight in the first team, which was very unusual, and we beat the reserves 5-1, which as well was very unusual, because in those sort of pre-season games, the reserves usually are more motivated than the first team. They go around kicking everybody, and the first team players are trying to keep out of trouble. But we won the game 5-1. We hit it off straight away,
His energy, movement and hunger marked him out as something different. On the pitch, his partnership with John Toshak quickly developed, and Keegan announced himself spectacularly by scoring after just 12 minutes on his debut, a moment that symbolized his instant impact.
Keegan with a chance, and he has scored! Keegan has scored! Oh, what a debut for this young man, this 20-year-old who 3 years ago was playing Sunday soccer in Doncaster.
So quick in the first game. It seemed like before we'd even started, it was over, and I'd scored a goal. No, it wasn't a classic goal. I can remember Peter Thompson, who was a great player, and I wish I could have played more with him. Obviously, he was coming towards the end of his career by the time I joined Liverpool in '71. But he crossed the ball over, and I thought, oh, right in front of the cop it was. And I thought, here it comes, I had a couple of good touches. I'm going to smash this into the top right-hand corner. And I pulled my foot back to give it the good old welly, if you like. And it bobbled off the shin and went in the bottom left. And that was my first goal. It might not be the best goal I've ever scored, but as far as I was always concerned, it was the key goal, because it got me started. It got my name on the score sheet. It took the pressure off. I'd have sort of played 3 or 4 matches and not scored. People would have said, well, he can play a bit, but he doesn't score goals. And it just exploded from there, really.
Kevin made his debut the first match of the season, and he just never really looked back from there. Incredible, really, because he's one of the few players, if not the only player, who's been signed and gone straight into Liverpool's first team and never come out. That didn't very often happen in those days.
Toshak again to Keegan, and Keegan's taken down. It's going to be a penalty.
There was even a story involving a group of university students who claimed Keegan and Toshak shared a telepathic understanding. Sitting back to back, one would lift a card while the other guessed the color or shape. They achieved around 16 correct answers, far above chance, until Bill Shankly later revealed he had cheated, having seen the reflection of the cards on a camera screen. It was a joke, but it highlighted how naturally the two players connected.
Keegan and Toshak look so happy.
Yet what truly shone through on the pitch was not trickery or theory, but something far
To
rarer.
do everything at 100 mile an hour. Some people don't take, running at 100 mile an hour to be their asset. You know, you bring the ball down, you look around, you clip a ball here, clip a ball. But Kevin, it was unbelievable.
What he brought to the team was a great enthusiasm that you always knew if a ball was played, even a bad ball was played from the back up to the front, which really he had little chance of doing anything with. He would always try and make something of it. He would never give up on lost causes. He had tremendous bravery for a small man. He would get across the face of people and head balls in the net. For his size, he probably scored as many headed goals as many big centre forwards. But he had so many other things that defenders would always, well, they would never ever have a minute's rest from him.
But despite his phenomenal talent, Keegan was very much his own man, both on and off the field.
Bob Paisley and Joe Fagan always used to say that when they were talking tactics and how they wanted people to play in the team, if they wanted Kevin to play off the front, they'd tell him to play as far up the front as possible. And if it was vice versa, they would tell him the opposite as well, because Kevin was his own man.
With Liverpool, he was winning everything. The 1974 FA Cup final, where Liverpool outplayed Newcastle and Keegan scored twice, catapulted him from club star to national and international superstar.
Keegan! Offside, Smith! Yes! Keegan second! And Newcastle were undressed. They were absolutely stripped naked.
It turned him from being a Liverpool star to being a national star and an international star, and suddenly he was a celebrity.
Although he capitalized on his fame, Keegan was careful to protect his image, turning down lucrative offers for alcohol and cigarette advertising because of the example he felt he set for young fans. His fame also brought darker moments. While on England duty in Yugoslavia, he was picked up by police and beaten in Belgrade. He later received a death threat while playing in Belfast. Most infamously, he became the first English player ever sent off at Wembley during the Charity Shield.
Kevin's turned round, but Giles, he was quite quick with it, and he's disappeared, and the first person he's met is Bremner, who hadn't been doing anything. So he's hit him. That was just a case of Liverpool and Leeds playing at the time, and all the games in those days against Leeds was like, it was like a Third World War.
You don't get players of his ability and enthusiasm not to blow the head now and again, because he done it in training sessions sometimes, but again, when you're on the touchline, you can see these things going to happen, and you're ahead of them. You try and get ahead of them, but I think at the Wembley one, I think it all shot all at once, and it couldn't be stopped.
After the game, he went home to his family, walked out on the club completely, but Bill Shankly took the trouble to chase him up. I'm not sure whether he called on him or rang him up at home, but he spoke to him at some length and told him that if he was going to really make it the grade, he had got to learn to cope with things like this and get his head together.
He later stormed out of the England squad after being dropped by manager Don Revie, an act that reflected his strong will and refusal to accept situations he felt were unjust.
He's a very sort of strong-willed, strong-minded person if he feels that what he's doing or what's happening is right.
All really successful people have this emotional thing, this obvious passion. I see the ingredients for success as being number one, top of the pops, peace of mind, to feeling that I did the right thing. And if it didn't work out, it wasn't because of lack of effort on my part. Kevin Keegan, I think, sleeps at night. I think he has peace of mind. I think he is, in himself, he believes he's a good man.
Despite controversy, unlike many footballers, Keegan always planned his career carefully. In 1977, Liverpool won the ultimate prize, the European Cup. It marked the height of his success at Anfield, but also his final game for the club. He had already announced he was leaving for Germany.
A lot of the fans have been very good about it. I just want to enjoy it. You know, it's not a depressing time for me, because what's going to happen after this is what I've wanted. So for me, I'm looking ahead to new horizons, and I only hope that the people here have been satisfied with what I've given them, because I'm over the moon with what they've given me over the last 5 years. And nobody could have supported me better than they have. They've stuck by me through thick and thin. And for my part, I've tried every week to come out here and give them 100% effort.
and I'll make that pretty even. We've had a good deal for 5 or 6 years, and I'm leaving on a really happy note because I know what's coming next is what I want.
Again, controversy followed, but Keegan was not driven by money. Even later, when he was paid 3 times more than Glenn Hoddle for the England job, he was known to have sacrificed a potential £15 million payout from Fulham shares. Proving wealth was never his main motivation. That European Cup final ended 5 extraordinary years at Anfield, during which Liverpool dominated English football, winning everything. In 1977, Keegan joined Hamburg, becoming the first English footballer to fully embrace a move abroad, and in doing so, the first English millionaire footballer, earning around £250,000 a year. He was determined to set a trail that would change the game for British players. His teammates nicknamed him
was Mighty Mouse, and I think that's because he was not the tallest, but he was playing like a very big man.
However, he was less popular with some teammates who resented having such a global superstar among them. He endured isolation and jealousy.
Okay, the fact that Kevin Keegan was cut out in the team was a subject in the newspaper every day, because Kevin Keegan had a big name.
Remaining calm until frustration boiled over and he punched a player during a friendly, resulting in an 11-match suspension and renewed questions about his temperament.
Kevin was on the ground then, and it couldn't be worse for him, his situation. But I think that was the point of return, because Kevin said, because of his strong character, I don't want to fail here in Hamburg. They must see the real Kevin Keegan before I go home. They must see what Kevin can do on the football field. And I think he was very ambitious then. I'm going to show these people in Germany what I can do with the ball.
And achieved a unique feat by being voted European Footballer of the Year twice in succession. He took Germany by storm, was even promoted as a pop star, releasing a single.
Kevin Keegan had a Wales in love.
He produced a single. The whole team had to listen to his production, and he took our advice which one he should take, and he sang his song in the TV, and so I think he sold quite a lot of singles.
And it looks like I'm falling all over again. Head over heels in love.
And inspired a generation of fans to copy his hairstyle.
This kind of haircut had everybody in Hamburg. Always men walking around with perms, and they all wanted to be like him, I think.
What shows the popularity of Kevin, that during that time a lot of babies were named Kevin, and Kevin is not the typical German name before.
Despite success in Germany, he once again announced his departure. Defying logic, he rejected a lucrative move to Juventus and chose Southampton, a small club not even in Europe at the time. He later admitted that one small percentage of doubt changed everything.
And I thought Juventus, I'd like to go and have a go at Italy. Everyone says it's difficult to score goals there. I wonder if I can, buck the trend a bit and be actually a forward who can get 20 or so goals. And I went home to see my wife, having said to Gigi, I think you can virtually say I'm 99.9% certain I'll be going. And I said to my wife, we've got the chance to go to Italy. And I'll never forget what she said. She said, you can go to Italy. She says, and I'm going back to England. I was amazed how much it surprised people. I think what appealed to me about Southampton more than anything, apart from the fact I had friends here, and it's a lovely part of England to live in, there's no doubt about that, was the fact that I thought to achieve something like a league championship with a small club would be something totally new for me. I'd done it with Hamburg in Germany, we'd won the league. Hamburg, like Man United, are in this country, in Liverpool. I'd done it obviously with Liverpool for 6 seasons, and I thought to come back and go into that same situation wouldn't be as interesting as coming to a club like this and trying really to win against all the odds. And I think that's, if I'm honest, that is what really appealed to me. I mean, you talk about no fun in football now. People say, where's the fun gone? We probably had too much fun in it here. I mean, the football wasn't secondary, don't get me wrong, but it certainly wasn't the be-all and end-all, except when we went out there on the pitch.
Kevin come and, I mean, the whole town lit up. I mean, everybody wanted to see Southampton. You couldn't get in the ground. I mean, it was a great atmosphere. Some of the football we played and some of the goals we scored were unbelievable. And we were leading the First Division for, round about Easter time.
At Southampton, surrounded by friends and without envy or hostility, he enjoyed 2 successful seasons, qualifying for Europe.
I judge success by what the teams I play for achieve. And everywhere I've been up to now, we've achieved something. All right, Southampton never won anything. But, when you look at the potential of the town and what we did achieve, to get twice in Europe, ahead of teams like Manchester City, Spurs, Arsenal and that the first year, and this year other big teams, then, that's success. That's the way you've got to gauge it.
Ball, and in terms of actually playing the type of football people want to see, it's that they still talk about it in the town now. And I don't think they'll see the likes of that again here. I don't mean that discourteous to any manager or any of the players that have come since, but we had a terrific way of playing football. And we used to draw games. I mean, we always said one of the big problems, we had to score 3 goals to win. 2 wasn't enough. 2 would get us a draw. 3 would win. I can remember sitting here one night after we'd drawn 5-5 with Coventry, and little Danny Wallace, who now is, of course, at Man United at the moment, he was just an apprentice, just come through his apprenticeship, and he actually came on sub-second half. And it was 1-0 at half-time. So there was 9 goals scored in about 30 minutes. And he came in and threw his boots in the middle there. And, obviously we were sick, we'd chucked away a point at home to Coventry because we'd normally expect to beat them. And he chucked his boots and he said, I don't know how we lost that. He miscounted and he actually thought we'd lost. He thought we'd lost 5-4 and we drew 5 each. That really typifies what the team meant. And we actually very nearly pinched the league. I mean, we hit the top just after Christmas. And we could have pinched it. I say pinched it because I think with the greatest respect, there was better sides around in terms of depth in talent at the clubs. Like Liverpool had a fantastic squad. We were just, ragtag and bobtails compared with them. But we were actually 8 points clear of Liverpool, and they had to come down the Dell. And nobody liked coming here.
Despite shining for England and captaining the side during difficult times, there was disappointment when he and Trevor Brooking were injured at the 1982 World Cup in Spain. He then left Southampton unceremoniously after falling out with manager Laurie McMenemy. Against all logic again, Keegan joined Newcastle United in the 2nd Division.
Chance here for Keegan. He's done it. Kevin Keegan scores, and St James's Park goes absolutely wild. 15 minutes gone, and Kevin Keegan celebrates his debut with the goal the whole of Tyneside has been praying for.
Oh, is this it? What a magnificent goal! That's what the Geordie fans wanted. The inspiration from McDermott and the finish of Keegan. So Kevin Keegan steps forward. Will this be his 5th goal of the season for Newcastle and his 2nd of the match? Scored after 11 minutes. And now with a penalty. Martin came in to steal that. Berardi. Keegan, is this the hat-trick? Kevin Keegan gets the hat-trick. And Newcastle lead 3-0. The Geordie fans go mad. Kevin Keegan doubles his goal total for Newcastle. 3 before today. And a hat-trick here this afternoon. Mick Martin. Keegan, number 4. What a marvellous goal. What a performance by Newcastle.
Beardsley again. Anderson's there as well. So is Ryan, the other fullback. And Ryan got the ball in the flick on by Waddle. And there it is. And of course, it's Kevin Keegan. Who else? McDermott with the kick.
Within 2 seasons, he led them back to the 1st Division before announcing his retirement and making an emotional farewell.
It's very difficult for me at this moment to speak.
and say what I really feel. But I thank you very much for the last 2 years.
Newcastle's Messiah departed in flamboyant fashion, heading for seventh heaven in his luxury home in Spain. During 7 years in exile, he lived privately, playing golf, investing in property, planning a football theme park, and spending time with friends at exclusive restaurants. He had turned away from football, prioritizing family, horses, and a quieter life. But a phone call from St. James's Park, driven by love for the club and its people, brought him back.
Another day of extraordinary drama in the northeast. Newcastle United, in danger of dropping into Division 3 for the very first time, look for salvation once again to the man who saved them before.
Introduce you to the new manager of Newcastle United. He's well known to you all, and he's well known to the people in the region. And we take great pleasure in introducing him to you now. And I'd like, if you would, come through the doors, please. Kevin Keegan.
Well, first of all, I'd just like to say it's nice to be back. I feel like I've come home. I can honestly say that there's no job in football I've ever wanted. This is the only job I've ever wanted.
Keegan, 8 years in Spain, playing golf, living out the country, never managed before, didn't know a thing that was happening up here. Absolute madness to make him manager. Wasn't madness, it was genius.
Once again, the Messiah returned, saving Newcastle from relegation to the 3rd Division and leading them to the Premier League. Despite Newcastle not having a modern training complex like PSG, training at a university, and sharing changing rooms with students of other sports like badminton, tennis, and basketball, he convinced a superstar in David Ginola to sign for Newcastle, a player who was wanted by Cruyff at Barcelona. Keegan's team played thrilling, attacking football and became known as the Entertainers.
The only thing Keegan never did was signing an overlapping goalkeeper, because everybody else overlapped and charged forward. That's why the whole country loved Newcastle United.
We became everybody's second team, and I always remember the days that it was said that if you played a team and they scored 5 goals, you scored 6. Just a wonderful time.
We'll say that he wasn't a tactician. No, he wasn't one of these managers that he took the defenders to one side and said, oh, we're going to do this today and the forwards are going to go over there and do that, whereas certain managers do that, split the different sections of the team up. He wasn't like that.
There's no restrictions on a player. They can go where they want, and it's up to the other players to fill in. And that's a thing that I really enjoyed once I switched to Newcastle, that everybody could go wherever they wanted, and up to others to fill in when you went.
He even showed courage by selling the club's most prolific scorer.
We are, but if a deal comes along whereby I as manager think I can take the club forward again, I've got to be allowed to do that, you know?
Not many managers would have done it. They went down, confronted them. I stood alongside, 10 yards away, just in case. And he was just magnificent. And the fans were very irate at that particular time, I remember. But after about 5 minutes of listening to what he had to say, he had the meeting out of his hands again.
If I make a mess of it, you chant me to go. You know I'm to go. But I understand your problems. Leave it with us.
And they backed him wholeheartedly, and the proof was nearly in the pudding.
And at one stage led the league by 12 points. But as the title slipped away, criticism grew, with claims his attacking style was naive. Pressure intensified, especially after tactical changes and new signings disrupted momentum.
Because you can't win football matches alone on sheer passion and enthusiasm. You have to be clever.
Because he doesn't concentrate on the opposition, he doesn't go in for the tactical battles. He wins games by boosting his players up. If he's reacting badly to the pressure, he can't boost his players up the way that he would want to.
After Alex Ferguson's comments that other teams were working harder against Manchester United than they would against Newcastle, implying that Manchester United were being treated unfairly, Keegan famously appeared to crack on television.
I think you've got to send Alex Ferguson a tape of this game, haven't you? Isn't that what he asked for? And we're playing Notts Forest on Thursday, and he objected to that. Now, that was fixed up 4 months ago. We were supposed to play Notts Forest. I mean, that sort of stuff, we're bigger than that. When you do that with footballers, like he said about Leeds, I've kept really quiet, but I'll tell you something. He went down in my estimation when he said that. We have not resorted to that, but I'll tell you, you can tell him now, if you're watching it, we're still fighting for this title, and he's got to go to Middlesbrough and get something. And I'll tell you, honestly, I will love it if we beat them. Love it.
The players, they couldn't believe it as well. I think it was stunned silence when they heard, when they heard it on the radio.
I love Kevin. I think he's a great manager, a really amazing person. But you could tell that he felt so strongly about what the manager had been doing. But we came into training and we knew that we'd won the league by then.
If a player had done that, people have said, well, he's passionate about his side and he's passionate about what's been going on. Because a manager does that, people see it as him probably wilting, and at the time they were saying that Alex Ferguson has won the mind game and stuff, but I don't think it was that. I just think it was he cared, and he cared a hell of a lot, and he showed it.
Unfortunately, Newcastle went on to lose the title to the Red Devils. The following year, despite the record-breaking signing of Alan Shearer, Keegan privately admitted he felt he had nothing left to give.
We were starting to get negative vibes, and maybe because of the results, weren't as good as what they were the year before. But once Kevin makes a decision and makes up his mind on something, that's normally the end of it.
When the club board decided to float Newcastle on the stock market, Keegan chose to leave.
They lost the best manager they ever had because they didn't take him with them. He was left to run the football side with more interference on the one hand by being encouraged to sell players because of the need to get things well organised before they floated, and on the other, people were less accessible to him. And I think they could have handled the situation much better by explaining to him, you are an employee, but you are the most important employee in the company, and we want to show our commitment to you. I don't think they ever said that.
In 1997, Kevin Keegan made a decision that stunned English football. Having come within touching distance of the Premier League title with Newcastle United, he stepped away from the spotlight and dropped down to the third tier, Division 2, to join Fulham. At first, he did not arrive as manager. Officially, Keegan took on the role of Chief Operating Officer, supporting his close friend Ray Wilkins, but it was clear from the outset that his influence ran far deeper. By 1998, Keegan had assumed full control as manager, and Fulham were transformed. Under his familiar gung-ho, attacking philosophy, Fulham became unstoppable. They did not merely win matches, they overwhelmed opponents. Goals flowed freely, confidence surged, and records fell. Fulham stormed the league, breaking the 100-point barrier and securing promotion in emphatic fashion. For the first time in years, Keegan was content. At Craven Cottage, he was building something from the ground up, away from the relentless glare of the elite game. Then came the call he could not ignore. In early 1999, England manager Glenn Hoddle was sacked, and the nation rallied around one name, Kevin Keegan. To supporters, he was the people's choice, a symbol of honesty, passion, and belief. The pressure on the Football Association was immense, and Keegan felt a sense of duty that outweighed his personal happiness. Initially, he attempted the impossible, managing Fulham week by week while taking charge of England during international breaks, but the strain was overwhelming. In May 1999, having just secured the league title with Fulham, Keegan stood on the pitch at Craven Cottage to mixed emotions. Cheers echoed alongside chants of Judas.
I think Kevin Keegan handled the leaving of Fulham appallingly. He behaved like a flirt. I was going to say a tart, but I think he certainly didn't behave in a sort of authoritative, straight up and down sort of way, which is, and the extraordinary thing is that this was so unusual, because normally he is a straight dealer.
But could he not delay his decision until Monday to let us have our celebration? And then
you're definitely spoiling our celebration.
Gillingham game, we got our promotion. You said, I'll fulfill my contract. I'll be here to the end. There'll be nothing that will diminish my role at Fulham.
That's before I took my second game with England and just got the bug, I suppose. And I'm not going to make any apologies for that because, I think it would be far, far worse if I said nothing tonight, didn't come on the show, and just disappeared on Monday. And then you would say, well, what a way to do that's not right either. I've been up front, I've been honest, as I always hope to be with you. You know, everyone's got a right to change their mind, and you know, football is an emotional game, and if it is for you people as fans, please don't think we're any different.
It's difficult to see how he could have handled it better, allowing for the nature of the man, because he does say things as they are. So if that's a fault, then so be it.
So 4 out of 10, absolute maximum for that episode from Kevin.
He had chosen England. His time as England manager would prove to be the most painful chapter of his career. Though he guided the team to Euro 2000, England were eliminated in the group stages. Keegan's open, attacking ideals struggled against the tactical rigidity of international football. The margins were unforgiving, and the scrutiny relentless. The end came in October 2000. England lost 1-0 to Germany in the final match ever played at the old Wembley Stadium. As rain fell and frustration spilled from the stands, the mood turned hostile. For Keegan, it was unbearable. True to his nature, he did not wait to be dismissed. Moments after the final whistle, he resigned, alone, in the Wembley toilets. Years later, Keegan would reflect on that decision with painful honesty. He admitted that leaving Fulham for England was the biggest mistake of his life. He said, "I should have stayed at Fulham. I was happy there. I took the England job because I felt I owed it to the country, but it broke me." It was a story not of failure, but of sacrifice. A man who followed his sense of duty over his own well-being. And in doing so, one of football's most passionate figures walked away from the place where he had finally found joy. Interestingly, today only one club truly remembers him. They rarely chant his name anymore. His face is not carved in stone. There is no statue, no mural, no stand on the Kop, no golden tribute to the man who burned for the game. And yet he carried English football through its fire and fury. He helped Liverpool rise to rule Europe. He conquered Germany when no Englishman dared to go abroad. He wore the England armband when the team had no direction. He did what no English player has done since, winning the Ballon d'Or twice. Still, the game moved on. Today we chant other names. We raise banners for men who never gave half as much. We build statues for players who never bled like he did. He was forgotten, not because he failed, but because he never asked to be remembered. He was not just a footballer. He was momentum, fire wrapped in discipline, belief in motion. And when his work was done, he walked away. No farewell, no ceremony. This is not nostalgia, it is correction. Kevin Keegan is more than words can explain to football. All that can be said is this: he is Keegan, because no word truly captures what he was to the game. And then finally, if you would like to know how Lewis Miley became the most overpowered wonder kid in the Premier League, click the video link on screen now.